Welcome back to The Explainer. So today we're diving straight into what I like to call the ultimate architectural blueprint for researchers. Think about it like you're building a house, right? Pure numbers and statistics, well, those are your bricks and mortar. They give you the scale, the solid structure. But the human narratives, the actual lived experiences, that's the interior design. That's what tells you how people actually live inside that house. And today, we're going to figure out how to build the whole entire picture using both through mixed methods research. If you've ever looked at a spreadsheet and thought, man, these numbers are totally missing the human context, or conversely, listened to an amazing story and wondered, wait, does this actually apply at scale? You are definitely not alone. There's this great quote from Creswell and Plano Clark that hits the nail on the head. They define mixed methods as an approach to inquiry involving collecting both quantitative and qualitative data, integrating the two forms of data, and using distinct designs. Basically, it's the end of the old paradigm wars, where people thought numbers and stories just couldn't mix. True discovery? It actually demands both. So let's break down what mixed methods research, or MMR, actually is. Because actually, scratch that, let me tell you what it isn't. It's not just, running a quick survey and then casually chatting with someone afterwards. It's an approach that intentionally combines quantitative, numerical data, and qualitative, narrative data right inside a single study. The big idea here is that integrating both types of data gives us a way better, significantly more comprehensive understanding of a problem than either method could ever pull off on its own. Okay, here's our master blueprint for today's explainer. We're covering 1. The power of mixed methods. 2. The core research blueprints. 3. Convergent versus sequential approaches. 4. Specialized mixed methods designs. And 5. The data integration challenge. Starting off with Section 1, the power of mixed methods. Let's really look at why we need both of these building materials to tackle complex questions in the first place. Whenever we study complex human issues, we absolutely need tools that can capture both breadth and depth. Take student motivation, for example. You could totally use surveys to measure motivation levels across, say, 500 students. Boom, there's your breadth. But then you follow up with in-depth interviews to really get into their lived experiences. That's your depth. Using mixed methods lets you validate your findings through triangulation. It helps explain those weird, unexpected statistical hiccups that always pop up, and it even lets you explore entirely new concepts qualitatively before you test them out quantitatively. It's a total game changer for bringing serious rigor to your work. Moving right along to Section 2, the core research blueprints. Let's take a look at the 3 main structural plans researchers use to decide exactly when and how their data gets collected. First up, we have the convergent parallel design. The magic word here is simultaneous. In this blueprint, you are collecting your quantitative and qualitative data at the exact same time. You analyze them completely separately, and then you merge the results. Think about trying to measure teacher effectiveness. You might be blasting out broad student surveys on the exact same day you have researchers sitting in the back of classrooms doing in-depth observations. The whole goal is to compare and directly corroborate those findings side by side. Next is the explanatory sequential design. And here, timing is literally everything. You start by running your quantitative data collection to get those hard statistical results, and then you follow up with a qualitative phase to explain exactly why those numbers look the way they do. Imagine your survey reveals a specific group of students is showing surprisingly low academic performance. Well, you deliberately go and interview those specific students to figure out what the survey isn't telling you. In this setup, the numbers lead and the narrative explains. And then we have the exploratory sequential process, which completely flips the script. Here, qualitative exploration actually creates the themes for your quantitative testing. You start by diving into the narrative. You might sit down and interview teachers to really explore their day-to-day challenges, pull out key themes from those conversations, and then use those exact themes to build a massive quantitative survey that you test across an entire school district. So here, the narrative leads and the numbers do the testing. All right, on to Section 3, convergent versus sequential approaches. We've got parallel paths and we've got phased paths. But how do you actually know which blueprint is the right one for your study? Looking at them side by side really clears this up. Convergent designs are all about parallel, simultaneous timing. You use this approach when your primary goal is to corroborate findings across different methods at the same time. Sequential designs, though, are phased. They depend on the results of Phase 1 to drive Phase 2.
You want to use a sequential approach when you need to either explain a complex statistical trend or explore a brand new theme before you can even think about testing it. Basically, it comes down to asking yourself, does my question demand simultaneous corroboration or step-by-step exploration?
Section 4. Specialized mixed methods designs. Because sometimes a standard blueprint just isn't going to cut it for the specific kind of research house you're trying to build.
Let's just briefly touch on 3 of these highly specialized tools. First, the embedded design. This is perfect for when you need to sort of sneak one data type into another, like slipping a few qualitative interviews into a massive, primarily quantitative medical trial. Then there's the transformative design, which is really unique because it's guided by a social justice framework, specifically aiming to advocate for marginalized voices. And finally, the multi-phase design. This is for the long haul. Think of a massive, multi-year educational reform project that involves several alternating phases of quantitative and qualitative studies over a decade.
Which brings us to Section 5, the Data Integration Challenge. This is the plumbing and the wiring of our research house. It's the messy, boots-on-the-ground reality of actually bringing different data sets together. Listen, integration is the absolute defining feature, the true hallmark of mixed methods research. If you don't integrate your data, you don't have a mixed method study. You just have 2 separate studies awkwardly sitting next to each other. You have to systematically bring them together. You can merge them directly into one combined data set. You can connect them, like we saw in those sequential designs where phase 1 informs phase 2. Or you can embed that secondary data set right into the primary one. To really nail this integration, researchers love using something called a joint display. On the one hand, you might have a quantitative finding, say 80% of students reporting high stress on a survey. On the other hand, you have qualitative findings, like interview transcripts where students are describing intense academic pressure. The joint display puts these side by side, so you can forge an integrated interpretation, proving that the specific academic workload is the exact culprit contributing to that 80% stress metric. It's a beautiful way to transform separate data points into one really cohesive, validated narrative. All right, time for a quick reality check, though. Playing the architect of both quantitative and qualitative methods, it is incredibly demanding. First off, it is super time-consuming to collect and analyze 2 completely different types of data. It's definitely more expensive and resource-heavy. Plus, the methodological complexity is off the charts. You essentially have to be an expert in both statistics and narrative analysis. But the biggest hurdle, for sure, is the actual data integration itself. Merging vastly different types of data without losing the integrity of either one is a massive challenge. It is an incredibly powerful approach, yes, but it requires some seriously rigorous planning. But despite all those practical challenges, integrating those hard numerical trends with real, lived human experiences makes mixed methods arguably the most robust tool we have for understanding our complex reality. So I'll leave you with this thought. When you're looking at the big, complex problems in your own field, which mixed methods blueprint will you choose to finally uncover the whole story? Let the building begin.